Does your law firm need a fractional CMO? And what can you expect when you hire one? On today's Pollinator Podcast. Yulianna, thank you for coming on today. Be able to talk about all this marketing that happens for all these different law firms. But before we get started, how about you just tell everybody a little bit about you and what you do, and kind of maybe what is the one big thing that you see happening in what you do, that if you could just shout it from the mountaintops to let everybody know, what would that be?
Yes, of course. Well, my name is Yulianna Cox. I'm with Cox Marketing Agency, and I'm a fractional CMO basically. And what I do is I really help law firms and companies grow from the ground up and solving the big problems that they have when it comes to marketing, which is usually strategy. A lot of law firm owners do not grasp or completely understand what they should be doing in marketing, everything from their budget to their whole marketing strategy to their intake team. And we are just here to put everything together and to strategize from the ground up.
So, this word strategy gets thrown around a lot, and I 100% agree with you that a lot of times there isn't a lot of strategy or strategic thought going in around the marketing budgets and the channels and everything else that goes into marketing a law firm. But when you see that, or you're talking to your clients about it, like how do you even define that term?
Well, it's tactical. You have to think about it that this should not be a game, right? There's a lot of money that gets put into when it comes to either setting up your foundation when it comes to your online visibility and putting money into ads. So it should not be a guessing game. It should actually be backed by research, looking at what the competition is doing, looking at what you're currently doing right now. And really, that is the strategy, looking at all the foundational bases, looking at what the real numbers are currently right now towards where you want to be in your intake flow and all your caseload as well.
What would you say is like the biggest gap in the strategic thinking for? And obviously everybody is different, and some are going to be much stronger than others. But if there's like a common theme that you come across a lot of times when it comes to thinking about marketing strategy and putting all these pieces together, like what is the missing link out there?
The missing link for marketing when it comes to strategy is looking at your data, looking at your numbers. More often than not, law firms are not looking at their data. Data essentially is the currency of the future. If you do not know what your current data looks like, you cannot predict what the future looks like. Hence, you cannot predict what your ad spend is going to be or how many cases are going to come in. And hence, it's going to give you the peace of mind that you are actually on the right strategy in the right way to continue to get those leads coming in. And it is going to give you the peace of mind because once you know every quarter more or less what your ad spend looks like, how many leads are coming in, what's your conversion rate, how your intake team is doing, and really looking at those KPIs, it's that data set that's going to help you give you the peace of mind for the future.
Going deep in the data is certainly important, but like very few people do it, right?
Very few.
Why do you think that is?
It's hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it, but it is difficult. You actually have to take time to sit down either with your strategist, you have to sit down even with your bookkeeper, with your office manager, with your marketing departments, and really sit down and look at what your key performing indicators are and working your way backwards, opening up your credit card and seeing how much money you're spending on your Google ads, on your pay-per-click ads, your local service ads, and working your way backwards and then looking all the way down to what you're converting in your intake process.
And at the end of the day, there's only 168 hours in every week, right?
Right.
And so when you're trying to run a law firm, and you've got to actually worry about the practice of law, the actual things that you're doing for your clients,
Right.
uh, it can definitely be. I don't even say like a barrier. There's so many, right? To be able to get in there, it's like carving out the time when you have so many other things that are urgent and pressing on you. But then even knowing where to start, and neither one of us even started in really a marketing background. We kind of like grew into that. I
Mhm.
came out of education. You came out of hospitality. What was your journey from that? Like working in the hospitality industry first, and then being able to kind of grow into this role now.
Well, my mentor growing up, uh, she was absolutely incredible. She's actually a mentor of mine from high school, and she always said something to the class that really stuck to me forever. And that is, you can use your hospitality in basically anything. You can have great bedside manners because at the end of the day, we are talking to humans, we are connecting with other people. And no matter what you are doing in your life, you need to have a good hospitality just basis. So you could be a doctor, you could be an attorney, you could be the person picking up the trash. If you have good hospitality, people are going to welcome you. And I started off in hospitality, and as I was very, very young, being a manager at a five-star hotel, luxury hotel, and I managed a lot of people. And when I started having a family and started to have kids of my own, I decided, you know what, I need to pivot. And the marketing at the hotels were always calling me, Yulianna, please come help me with this. Can you give me your input on in this? And I was really busy managing, training my team. And of course, every once in a while I'll go in and I'll help with the whole marketing side of things. But I decided, you know what, let me try this on my own. And I did. And very quickly I became successful at it. And what I do notice when it comes to marketing, especially in a leadership role, is that I really like the leadership role. I understand the nuances of how to create a Facebook ad, how to create a PPC ad, how to create a local service ad, how to work on social media. But essentially, I really like that whole creating the team and delegating and leading and teaching the business owner or the partner or the attorney how to really read these numbers on a higher level look, because quite frankly the owners do not need to know how to run a pay-per-click ad, right? So it really comes all 360 with hospitality, because your bedside manners, your customer service is also tied into law firms and how they function with their intake. And what I started noticing, that big gap between the two, I'm sure you know, Will, right? Because you also do this as well, is that we can bring in as many leads, but if the intake is not converting them, there is a gap right there. And that gap is usually customer service.
It's definitely customer service. That's a lot of times the biggest gap in the overall strategy that that we see. And it can be difficult sometimes to come in and have a more strategic conversation when as the owner of a firm, you're trying to grow it. You're not getting deep. You didn't go to 3 years of law school to, like you say, learn the back end of Meta, or to do all these deep
Right.
dives in the strategy of hashtags, or where to place the marketing budget in a particular ad campaign and be a media buyer. And the marketing has gotten so sophisticated these days, where it really comes down to like the numbers. And some of the best media buyers I know um, were actually accountants. I mean, technically still are accountants, but like they were CPAs first and got in there to be able to track the numbers. But then there's still that whole creative side. And I know we run into folks all the time that are just like, yeah, I want to improve my social media. Like, what do you expect? And they're really focused on generating leads. And like we brought in a client earlier this year, and she's like, yeah, I just got to get my marketing on point, and we need to increase the leads that we've got. But then we actually went in and looked at the numbers and say, all right, how many leads are you generating? How many calls do you have? How many consultations is that turning into? What's your conversion there? She was converting them better than 50% of the time, which certainly isn't bad. But it was that gap in intake, right? Like she was only getting like 22% of the people that were calling to actually turn it into consultations. And I'm like, you have enough leads. Like to hit your goal that you set for this year, like you already have enough leads. We don't need to go do big marketing campaigns and spend
Right.
tons of
That's why
money
the
on
foundation
ads.
is so important.
Like if we just kind of plug the hole in the bucket right here, like what you're already doing is going to continue to generate enough. And then now we got that improved and a big, practically doubled that um, conversion in intake. Got the right people in place to be able to do that. And now the focus can turn back into, all right, now let's talk about content. Now let's talk about improving the quality of the leads or getting people that already have a familiarity and some trust with you. But if you don't fix the sales side of it first, like what is the point in spending all this money on marketing to generate more leads that are just going to get lost anyway?
Right. You brought up a great point. That question why is so important. So the question why is like, why do you want to generate more leads? Why are you interested in having a better visibility online? Why do you want to get to, let's say, 10,000 followers? Like, what's the purpose behind that? Same thing with numbers, right? Why do you want to go from 10 leads or 10 conversions a month to 30 conversions a month? Like, what's the purpose behind it? And I also want to iterate the importance of the involvement of the attorney or the business owner in this case. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes when they hire us as their marketing consultant or their marketing agency, they say, go do what you need to do. But if you want to grow from X amount of followers to double, triple amount of followers, you need to be involved. You need to get on camera. You need to give us the content because you know what? We cannot create it for you. We can't. And we are not
Well,
your company.
well, we
We can
can,
try our
right?
best. Yes, of course.
We
Like
can
we
create something, but then it goes back to what are you actually generating with it?
Exactly. So that involvement of the owner is still very, very critical. We're going to hand hold, we're going to take them through the entire process, but we'll do all the technical aspects. We'll help you with your key performing indicators. We'll help you with the data sets, the strategy, and everything else in between. But the involvement is still very critical of the owner.
Yeah, and it's another one of those spectrum type things, right? Where you get people all the way across the spectrum because you'll get some people that just want to be, completely hands off, and you take it. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way because we're still, we can run ads for you, right? But you're going to just generate the same cold, commoditized leads, and if you don't pay attention to your intake, then you're going to have an even bigger problem. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you get people that want to be like super involved, and some people have to have this conversation with people sometimes because folks will come in and kind of question stuff, and I just have to kind of look at them like, what do you do when a client comes in and has like done all this legal research on ChatGPT or whatever, or has an idea of what they want to be in a motion that you're filing, or questions that you need to ask in the deposition. Like, what do you do? And they'll usually come back and they'll tell me like, oh well, we have to break some beliefs, or we have to reshuffle kind of how they're thinking about things, and really just to understand like, hey, we're the expert, we've gone through all this, we have the experience to do this, and we really advise you not to do that. And I'm like, huh, I need you to do the same thing right now, and we're happy to explain and to give all of the answers to your questions. Like I prefer people that are maybe a little overzealous and wanting to understand things, and that just kind of goes back to my me being a teacher. But it is really interesting for me to see kind of that spectrum. I think the happy medium is those folks who know they need to show up, and they're either recording content or they're reviewing. They're giving ultimately the direction. And I used to say that as the owner, you need to be in charge of the strategy of what we're doing here. And now I've kind of taken that back, right, as we kind of uh, more clearly define what creating the strategy actually is. It's like we can come up with the strategy to get you to where you go, but you still do have to set the direction and you have to set the goals. Like, what are we working towards here? And if you can't give a clear goal and a clear direction in what you're trying to achieve and why that is, then we'll start off creating a strategy and implementing the tactics and measuring the KPIs and getting to there. But it's like, uh, this was more like career oriented folks, but there's a nice parallel. Maybe you've heard that quote that the worst thing about climbing the corporate ladder is getting to the top and realizing it was leaning against the wrong wall. And
Yes.
it's the same kind of thing. And like, we'll work on a strategy, and we just started this the other day. Like, it's like, all right, pick an avatar, pick a service that we're going to build the campaign around, and let's go in that direction. So we start doing all this. We're coming up with like script outlines, everything, and then we come back and get to a meeting. She's like, I think we really need to go in the opposite direction, which is fine. That's going to come up, but just people don't understand sometimes that that just means we're starting over from scratch, right? And we're going to now have to take that time. So we're not on the same timeline that we were when we got started.
All right. Uh, Quite frankly, that is my pet peeve. That's a huge pet peeve of mine because we put in so much work into a specific strategy, and if it gets, you know, cracked down in the very end stages, they don't know all of the little nuances that it takes to just write out a message, because it's all about like it really starts from one point and then it branches out into so many different things. I know I'm being vague and I do not want to be vague. What I mean by that in technical terms, if you want to create an ad of, let's say, a Facebook ad for let's say divorce, right? There's so many different things that you have to do in the very beginning in order to get to launch. And in order to get to launch, you have to first pick your messaging. You have to get your ad. You have to get the right picture. You have to get the right video if you're doing video. Then you have to create a landing page, or you're creating the Facebook lead form, and then you're creating the actual ad, making sure that the ad is working properly, putting everything out there, making sure the automation is done. That is the hardest part, I think. Right? We both work on the same platform, and just creating the automation, creating that message on the back end, creating that text message that goes out, creating the email that goes out, and even before that, you actually have to go and make sure you have to buy the phone number, you buy the call tracking number, you have to make sure that you're A2P verified, and all of these things take time and strategy and making sure that that one message works for when you're going to launch that one ad. Look at all that work that takes just to launch, and I'm sure I missed a couple steps,
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
right?
don't forget like hooking up conversion APIs on the
Oh
back
my
end
gosh,
too.
yes. And the pixel, we forgot the pixel.
Right.
Like, there are so many things. So, um, the way I like to work with clients is working with the end in mind and working with a 1 year plan, and then working on and hitting those milestones on a quarterly basis.
Right.
There's so many projects that we work on together with a law firm or a business owner, that in order to hit your goal, we have to work backwards. That's why we ask, like, why is this important? And we want to make sure that we are hitting those goals from the very beginning, from where we start with together. And then we work our way and we make sure that we either work with your team or with another agency, that we're hitting those milestones and we're hitting those goals together.
I'm interested to kind of understand how you approach this, because sometimes people come in and they are very sophisticated. They've done a lot of research. They've learned a lot um, about marketing. Sometimes they've learned just enough to be dangerous. Um, but the that's what I tell my clients. After
Yeah,
working with
probably
all
know more
these,
than most.
but after working with all these lawyers, I'm like, yeah, I'm getting to that point that like I'm getting dangerous. People ask legal questions, and I'm like, you need to talk to a lawyer. But here's what I've learned. Um, but then other folks come in and they're just like, I just need to improve my marketing. I just need to grow. I just need to get more clients, and that is a very vague goal. So, but it's out there, right? And that's common. It's not just that's certainly not specific to law, but when somebody comes to you like that and just has this vague goal of growth, they know stuff isn't working. They know they need to have some outside expertise in that. Like, what is the process that you take them through to ultimately be able to set that 1 year plan and set those quarterly benchmarks?
Well, a lot of things happen. We have conversations with all the partners. I want to make sure that they are aligned. If they're not aligned, we want to see what makes them different, because each partner could be different in a firm. Then the very first thing is we listen. We listen. We look at their online visibility, and the next thing I do is my digital visibility report. Okay, it's pretty much your blueprint, and what it is essentially is looking at your current visibility, looking at how you're being, what your competition is online, and how you are being placed in rankings next to them. And then we actually look at your competition. And this is not going to be your competition that you believe because they're good in the courtroom. The funny fact is that we actually need to see who your competition is online, because right now I was talking to one of my clients here that unfortunately you're not just an attorney anymore. You're an entertainer. You have to be an entertainer, because the layperson is not looking at you through the courtroom, because they can't just go into the courtroom on their free time because they want to and they're bored. They're not going to do that. What are they going to do? They're going to pick up their phone and they're going to look up who has the most content online, who has the most education online. So we look at the online visibility in an online perspective. What is the competition doing? Based on that, we want to plug up all of the marketing holes, all of the marketing matrix, like where they are. We want to plug all of that up as much as possible based on what works for, not only for them, but also for the competition. And of course, we, as their marketing consultant, will go ahead and guide them as to what are the best practices in marketing in general. And we're going to plug all that together. And we're going to create a plan and a strategy based on that. But here's the thing: each law firm and each owner is unique. They could be a woman, or they want to be part of an organization. Let's say an organization because one of the law firm owners' child has a disability and is very keen on a specific nonprofit that they want to be involved in, or they're currently involved in, or somebody that or an organization that they really want to advocate for. So each law firm owner is very unique in their own way. So we look at the online visibility, the online matrix, we plug up those holes, and we also look at how they are unique in the online world. And we put all of that together. We look at their 1 year plan. We work our way backwards every quarter, and we hit those milestones. We never, ever let our foot off the gas, ever. The minute you do that, you see a downward trend
Yeah.
in your online marketing, and we don't want to do that. That's why it is so important to hold everybody accountable. That's why we have key performing indicators, holding every team member responsible for it, including the intake, including the person who answers the phone call, including the marketing team, including the person who's running the ads, the owner, because we want the owner to make sure that they're creating content. We're keeping KPIs on them too, and on us. We want to make sure that everybody's hitting those milestones. That's why we start from the very end, and we go our way backwards, and we hit those milestones. And at the end, you see, hey, we've accomplished this, and it's one layer after another. We work on something, then we layer something else on, then we finish it, or we continue it, and then we layer something else on.
So I kind of want to come back to hitting milestones and stuff, but you mentioned something that I think is kind of the bane of a lot of attorneys' existence right now when it comes to marketing, and that is the idea of having to be an entertainer.
Hmm.
And so I would agree to an extent. Like if your strategy is to go with short form content, right? And you're going to try and be on TikTok or Instagram and stand out in reels. Like there is definitely like you have to cater to that audience, and you have to cater to the context in which you are delivering that content. And, there's a little bit difference between if you're going to YouTube. Typically, somebody's going for long form content, and YouTube they're really trying to learn something, or if they're going to your blog on your website, and, they're doing a little bit deeper research. But if you are trying to put reels out there, and you think about, all right, I'm going to put out a reel, and I want somebody to pay attention to me talking about this legal concept that they should know versus the next cooking video or cat video or whatever your algorithm is tending to feed you. Like, how are you actually going to catch that attention and hold it for even just those 60 to 90 seconds or 180 seconds, whatever they give you now, to do that? And there absolutely is that kind of edutainment uh, portion to it. So what do you say to an attorney that seemingly has kind of these contradictory goals or minds? Like, they want to be out there, they see people blowing up on TikTok, on Instagram, talking about how they're doing social media. I in some of these attorney forums, and I'm sure you are too. And like, it's very interesting to see people post things like, I'm done with social media. I've been doing it for a year now, and I'm not really getting anything out of it. And then all these other people come in. It's like, social media is great, and like, oh, we've gotten so many new clients, we've grown so much, and it's all coming from our social media. What are some of the things you say to that attorney to get them to maybe shift out of the discomfort of having to go and be this entertainer more than just kind of the traditional, maybe introverted, learned professional that they have typically seen themselves as?
Well, first of all, definitely acknowledging that frustration. It's hard, okay? To be online, to showcase, to now be public when you really want to be private is difficult. It is. And I always want the owner to be their unique self online. The first 20, 30, maybe 50 videos are going to be difficult, and you're not going to find your voice yet. But it gets to a point, gets to a tipping point that you are in a fuck it mode, and I'm just going to create the content because I believe this is what's important to my viewers, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. It is difficult. The first video you create is going to suck. It's going to be awful. You still have to create it. It's it's the cost of admission to get to that place. Now, I also understand how difficult it is to constantly be on camera and showcasing what you're doing in the background. Essentially, that's what the user, the layperson wants to see. They want to see that you're a real human being. I want to give you a great example. A business profile versus the actual attorney's profile. There's a big difference in how many followers there are between two. People want to follow people.
Yeah.
Think about Spanx and Sarah Blakely, because I don't want to name attorneys now, but she's a big public figure.
Sure.
So Spanx doesn't, like, it has millions of followers. But when you compare Sarah Blakely's account, she has significantly more followers there because people want to follow people. So
And for all the male viewers out there, can you explain what Spanx is real quick?
I'm sure you know, but it's that thing that keeps you snatched, basically. It's like those tight things that women wear under their dresses to,
Like shapewear, right?
yeah, like it's
Like,
like
that was
it's shapewear. It's like stockings, and they do other things like shorts and jeans and stuff like that. But they did start off with the,
and Sarah Blakely, she's got a great story and has become a
uh,
good storyteller and stuff. And that's all the other reason that I think people like to follow her. But yeah, I think that's a great example. And we've had a client that we talked about getting on video and doing content, and she did some more educational pieces first, and we sent a pro there to help her record to kind of get over some of the nervousness and to take out all the extra stuff, all the lighting and all that mess.
mhm.
And I mean, she told us afterwards, she's like, I had to take a shot of tequila before getting on, right? And you could tell she was very nervous. But now it's like 2 years later, and she's recording reels pretty much every day. And she even got away from the teleprompter and the setup and rolling things in, and she still does that for some stuff. But in general, she's just like, I want to talk about this today. She'll just pick up the phone and set it up, and she's got her cute little fuzzy mic. She clips on the straw of her Stanley Cup or whatever it is, and she's just going at it and just telling people. And when that, she just let her personality really come out, and like I said, she's just kind of like fuck it, let's just put it out there. Like that grew into all this more authenticity, which was something that was always very very important because and that's what I see as like one of the really weird things, right? Is that people say like, oh, I want to be authentic, and that's why they're avoid being the idea of being an entertainer.
Hmm.
But the more authentic that they actually are, once they get on there and like you say, kind of eventually get to their voice, like that's what becomes entertaining. And so it's you
It won't
don't
happen overnight. It won't
yeah,
happen overnight.
you can't chase it. Like if you chase being entertaining, then you're going to come off as inauthentic. But I think it's like you say, you've got to just be willing to put the 20, 30, 50 videos out there
Cost
and
of
kind of get through
admission.
that.
It's the cost of admission. That's all that it is. And I just want for you to, like, if you're ever in doubt, just, if you have time, scroll all the way to the very beginning and look at what people's very first videos are. If you think that they're really good at what they do, look at the first couple videos. I mean, it's going to take you a hot minute to scroll down because I've actually done it because I want to see what people actually look like when they were in the very beginning of their online entertainment phase. It's difficult. It is. And I also want to encourage everybody who's listening to this that not everybody's going to do it. Most of the people are going to quit. Most of the people are going to quit. They're going to quit. But you are not going to quit because you're different, because you're unique, because you're a badass, because this is something that you've been wanting to do since you graduated and got your bar license, because you're not going to give up, because you need to feed your family, because you want to buy that thing you want to buy, because you want to help and support that family member that needs your help and support, or you want to advocate and give money to a cause that you truly believe in, whatever it takes, because not everybody's doing it. Everybody else is quitting. Everybody's saying, oh, this is too hard before they actually get through that breakthrough. And that goes to say that it's not only on just social media, but it's your entire marketing strategy. It's about finding that code and cracking the code of how marketing works for you. Once you crack that code, everybody's going to come up to be like, hey, I saw you on social media. Hey, I've seen you on an ad. Hey, I saw you on the billboard. Hey, you're that guy from the, or you're that girl from the, from, that billboard that I saw, or that ad that I saw. So it takes time to crack that code. But in order to get there, you have to be consistent and you have to take the time to get there. It's the cost of admission. It's all that it is. It's going to cost you time and money in the very beginning, but it is the investment that you need to take to get there.
Absolutely. So to shift back now, you're talking about setting the milestones for folks. Actually, let me back up from that. Even just this idea of a fractional CMO, right? Like that kind of title or whatnot has not really been out there as long as some others. Like I think I probably saw it first as like fractional CFOs
Mm-hmm.
and people coming in and doing finance. And then we just kind of realized that, oh yeah, that's basically what we are, right? We're really just that person in charge of marketing strategy and helping to keep things aligned. But what does that practically mean for somebody who's maybe heard this term thrown around or who they hear other attorneys about it, but like how do you define what that role is and how is that different than like a marketing agency or just a marketing consultant or maybe one of these tactical specialists that you bring in around something like Google Ads or SEO.
Well, that's great to hear that it's still new. And it is new, and it's going to be the thing that's going to take over the marketing department. The marketing department is shrinking. As you know, copywriters, there's not that many copywriters now because now there's ChatGPT. There's so much AI happening. Think about it, AI just happened in 2021. Look at how advanced we are just a couple years down the line. And The only thing you really can't replace is leadership. You cannot replace the strategy. You cannot replace the leadership to fix the big problems that are happening with AI. And you have to start from the bottom up, and and quite frankly, leadership is what's going to save the company and have the right strategy in place. Because you can ask ChatGPT or Brock or whatever AI system that you want to use, but that fractional aspect is also important. And the reason why I say that is because in a fractional aspect, you don't need somebody in your office that, number one, you're paying full time with all the benefits, that essentially is a seat warmer, right? You can get away with, maybe working 10, 20, 30 hours a week. But in reality, when you get to 20, 30, 40 hours a week, they're not being productive. They're helping, you're paying somebody so much to help them to count inventory or start doing the social media posting online, just like fill in those gaps. And quite frankly, the marketing person in your office cannot wear all those hats, because essentially you're looking for a unicorn to do not only the thing but also the strategy. You need somebody who has the experience in a various number of different law firms to come in, implement, hold people accountable, and to make sure that they're doing their job. And when you have somebody in a fractional aspect that's not just sitting at your desk for years and years and years, not knowing what's happening outside in at other law firms. And when you get that insight, when you work with a fractional leader that's working in your office, you actually can leverage them and their experience on what they're experiencing with their other clients in the online world, um, for your company, because you can see what's happening out there and they're just not being seat warmers in your office paying them six figures.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting conversation to have with people. We have a client we're kind of getting ready to onboard, and he's bringing in some new people and kind of doing this whole restructuring inside the firm. It's a pretty big firm, but they haven't spent any time talking about brand or like setting themselves apart. They've grown through just purchasing leads, and that's worked for them. And he's been able to scale a lot bigger than a lot of other folks in the space.
Mm.
But when we talked about kind of coming to that realization that ultimately he wasn't going to be able to get to the next level without having some brand recognition and being able to generate the quality leads that converted on his own, like it became this much bigger conversation. I let him know, like, all right, ultimately you will get to the point. I believe firms will grow to a point where you do need to have somebody that is full time, just focused on your marketing. But to your point, like that's not the social media manager that a lot of firms will buy, or they're looking for somebody that's like straight out of college to handle social media or handle the marketing and do all these things. And you can definitely get people that come and do it. But like I say, it's a unicorn to have somebody that has both the technical knowledge of kind of creative design and the messaging, and then somebody who is also really good at being able to read the numbers and understand the trends and to track and to allocate budgets. Like that's a very whole brain type of person.
True.
And yeah, that person that gets to that level, because certainly people do rise to that if they're not already outrunning their own marketing agency or consultancy, and you're going to bring them in, like that's a six figure salary, because you're bringing in somebody that can look at the entire scope of the playing field and or the chessboard and know where to move all the pieces. And that's not just hiring a marketing agency who's going to say they're going to run ads and then abdicating your entire marketing strategy and asking them why all these things aren't working. I think that's working with other marketing vendors like you do. I know that's one of the biggest frustrations that I hear all the time. It's like, oh, we can deliver deliver the leads, or we're sending the leads. Here's the lead report and all this, but we can't do anything internally into the firm. And when you actually have somebody in that seat that can look from soup to nuts, like, all right, what is our brand awareness? What is the conversion on ads to every step in that process? I would use that lovely farming analogy that we do, and then getting people to the sales, and then even beyond that, to the hospitality part. Like, all right, what are people saying after you sell them? Because you can't outspend a bad reputation. And so, are you propagating those sales through the referrals and through good reviews and everything else that goes into ultimately who you are and your differentiators and why people are going to ultimately want to hire you? But the crazy thing is that when firms are small and you're just starting out, or you're under a million in revenue, maybe you've got a couple paralegals, maybe you have an associate or two, and you're trying to grow to that next level. You're not going to generally be generating enough revenue to have that kind of person in. And you can get people to come in and do the day to day and do the posting and do some of the writing and kind of run the things through ChatGPT. But who is going to be that quarterback who's making sure that all the pieces are running so that you can move forward, and then is tracking and holding other people accountable? Because ultimately, as the firm owner, like, you just want like one chest to poke, one choke to throat to choke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Somebody that's going to bring all that data to you, because otherwise it's going to be you. And when you're the firm owner, you've got the goals, you've got the metrics, the benchmarks that you need to hit and you need to be tracking, but you're not going to be able to be in the day to day and focusing just on that, when you also have to focus on delivery, and you also have to focus on the quality of service that your team is delivering. And you also have to worry about actually just continuing to be a good lawyer and understanding the changes in the law that may be happening. And so it really is building this kind of fractional team, and it's understanding, I think, the difference between who those leaders are the people who put everything together, and then like who the specialists and the tacticians are that are going to go and deliver all those little steps along the way.
Right. And without a good marketing team, things are not going to flow correctly. They're just not. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be stressful. Um, you're going to spend a lot of money on trial and error when you can really just have your strategy based on research really help you focus on where you should be going.
So, to kind of wrap things up there, everybody's coming in, and we've even talked about, we all come from kind of these different backgrounds, and even if somebody went into marketing and is, their whole career has been in various stages of marketing and client acquisition, people still generally kind of have a specialty, like the things that they are the best at, and then the things that they realize, all right, there's somebody else out there that is the best at this, and we're going to bring them onto the team to support in that area. I mean, because it's just like in the law. 50 years ago, it was very common for somebody to be just the door lawyer. Anybody who walked in the door with any kind of legal problem, they're going to be able to handle it. If it was estate planning, if it was criminal defense, like whatever, you would just be the neighborhood lawyer. But now everybody's specialized down into these practice areas because there's just too much to know. There's too many differences. So for you, like, what is the thing that you are the absolute best at? And if they didn't hire anybody else, like, you would be able to drive a result in this particular area? Or what is that thing that you enjoy doing the most when you are putting that team together, and you're like, I'm going to hold on to this because this is the highest and best use of my time and skills?
So it's the leadership portion, the delegation, looking at what's working, looking at what's not working, and plugging in those gaps, plugging up those gaps. And when those gaps are plugged, things are going to hum finally in the right direction that you want it to go to. So, what I truly enjoy doing, what I noticed a while ago, of what I'm really good at is the delegation. It's fixing everything that's happening internally and externally in the online matrix and making sure that works together. I have spent years doing the thing. I have spent years creating newsletters, social media, pay per click, social media ads, local service ads, um, everything that it comes to marketing. But what I see that really lacks in a company is that leadership portion. And going back to my hospitality and my experience managing so many other people, I'm really good at connecting those dots and making sure that everybody's working together and that we're working with the leadership team to make sure that we're hitting those milestones. Because if you don't have somebody in charge of that, it is not getting done.
Very good. Well, Juliana, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here, share these insights and your experience with our audience, and giving them a broader picture of what it really means to have a leader in that kind of role, working with their firm and helping them to drive results. And so, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Will. Appreciate it.